Welcome one and all to a brand new episode. This is C&B. I'm Siddharth Vinayak Partnkar. Our brand new titles, you're still reacting to that. I hope you're liking it. Please keep the feedback coming. Now, last week I showed you the Jeep Meridian. You got the first glimpse and I promised you the review. That is coming up right now. Also a good glimpse of the new Honda City Hybrid. That review is coming up later in the show. Let's get started with the Jeep. The Jeep Meridian is the Stellantis Group brand's effort to expand the Indian portfolio from Jeep. In fact, there is what you may call a product offensive that's on, with India getting 4 locally made Jeeps by the year end. The Compass, Wrangler, Meridian, and of course, even the flagship Grand Cherokee that will arrive by the festive season. I am in Chandigarh to drive this car, and the smooth tarmac this Union Territory offers is an absolute delight. We then also managed to get into some twisty roads across the Himachal border to get a comprehensive feel of the car. Start driving the Meridian and the first thing that's going to grab you, the suspension and ride quality. It is going to be the one thing that will get discussed a lot about this car, I reckon. The steering will be the other. Now, you might say that it's a lot like the Compass. Now, of course, it's the same family. But I think where the significant part of that comes in is when you compare it to the rivals. It's not going to feel anything like the Fortuner, for example. And that is the car it really has to go after. The big difference there, of course, is the way the two cars are constructed. And that's where this one has a clear edge. The Meridian has a monocoque construction, lending it a tauter feel. There is minimal to no body roll, and the car feels quite planted and assured. It shares a lot with the Compass though. That includes the 2-litre turbo diesel engine with the option of manual or 9-speed automatic. It does not get the petrol option like its sibling though. The engine is familiar, and the surprising bit is that its state of tune and digits are identical to the Compass diesel. Now that is a bit odd, since I expected that to be differentiated between the two models. The same is true for the gearboxes. I get the logic of sharing the Compass's engine and, from economies of scale and a business case point of view, that makes sense. You get a lot of grunt, torque is not the problem. It is, though, 168 bhp that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. I would have wanted this to be a more powerful car for lots of reasons, not just for its own performance's sake, but also for the sake of what it's trying to pitch. It is trying to say that this is the most sophisticated option to what exists in the segment, and so a lot of power would be important to communicate that sense of luxury and refinement. That, to me, is a bit of a miss. I wouldn't have had a problem if you had this and then maybe a more powerful variant of the car. That, at least for now, is not on the cards. The Jeep Meridian's alter ego, the Commander, does get a 1.3 turbo flex fuel engine in Brazil, which makes 182 bhp. The Compass also has more powerful 2 and 2.4 litre Tiger Shark petrol engines in other markets. But for now, Jeep does not see a business case and therefore a reason to launch a petrol variant of the Meridian in India. Now, I like me a stiff steering, and so the weighted feel on this one is great, especially on the hill roads that we've driven on, even the high-speed roads. It's in really dense traffic though that you might find it a little too hard, but you know what, that's a personal preference thing. I, for one, am quite happy with it. The car does have frequency selective damping that helps with better cornering. The thing is that this is also being pitched as a driver's car and not just a chauffeur-driven one. And there again, I feel having additional power and a swifter initial acceleration would have been gold. The great news is that the other big focus for Jeep is how this car does off-road. But before we get to that, a closer look at its design and interior. The size of the car is substantial. It strikes you at first glance, and especially when you compare to the Compass, because that is going to be the inevitable comparison. This one is 364 millimeters longer, 146 millimeters more when it comes to the wheelbase. That's significant. We'll talk about that on the inside as to why that's important, though it's kind of obvious. I like the pattern on the alloy wheels, and you've got options, of course, just 2 trims. So you also get the painted black two-tone alloy wheel and the two-tone roof also on some colors and only on the limited option variant. In the front, of course, typical Jeep territory. I don't have to talk about the 7 slats, but what I will say is that unlike the Compass, what you are starting to see here is a little bit more of that upright face that the new Grand Cherokee has brought in, the Wagoneer and the Grand Cherokee. You get a little hint of that, which is good. Slimmer lights as well. Again, that's good because it has to create a differentiation between this and the Compass, and that is something that I feel the designers have been able to pull off. Too much chrome for my liking, but you know what, the market's gonna love it. An intentional effort has been made to swank up the cabin of the Meridian to give it upmarket feels. The quilted leather finish seats, the color palette in rich dark tones do convey that to a certain extent. The plastics, especially on the doors and around the sides of the cabin, could have been better though. The panoramic sunroof, 10.1-inch touchscreen, 10.2-inch digital instrument cluster, ventilated front power seats, power tailgate, and a few other comfort and tech features are borrowed from the top-spec Compass to good effect. Most features are standard. There will be 2 trims, the Limited and the Limited Option. The latter is obviously better loaded. The Meridian is also a connected car and has Jeep's Uconnect suite with features like geofencing, remote door lock, unlock, etc. The car also has an inbuilt SIM with free data services for 3 years. It gives you access to a variety of entertainment and navigation apps. The Meridian also has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, besides a wireless phone charger. Okay, so the all-important third row. Big USP on this car. You saw me getting in, wasn't the most graceful, but the one movement tumble down function of the seat works just fine. 2 big problems. As you can clearly see, I am not comfortable, and I'm not the tallest person in our group, but yes, this is pretty snug and tight. So what are the 2 big problems? Under thigh support. Well, you can't even talk about it because thighs aren't in play here, so there is absolutely none to speak of. And the second problem, of course, is the lack of space. You can see there is a substantially cramped situation here. Well, the big problem, this seat doesn't slide forward, and you have that, of course, on some 3-row cars, which kind of gives you a little bit of extra space back here to play with. I can do barely nothing back here. Now, you can adjust the reclining angle of this seat a little bit, but guess what? It only gets worse. It comes further down, and that is not ideal. So my knees are pointing to the sky, and this is definitely not for adults, certainly not for long distances. For kids though, it would be fairly comfortable. You do get the third row roof mounted AC vents, and you've got cup holders back here for what it's worth, so that's nice. The seat itself is well constructed, and it's fairly comfortable on the back. It's the seat bottom, the cushion or the lack of it, that is the problem. So it's not for grown-ups, but will serve large families with little kids quite nicely. The Isofix child seat anchors though are only in the second row, and it is a miss that the second row does not slide. Safety is standard on both variants, right from Isofix to 6 airbags, and you also get tire pressure monitoring and a 360-degree camera view. The whole focus of coming to this off-road track is to obviously talk about the capability of this car. Now, it has to be a true blue Jeep. That is what I am here to test. Of course, while the Meridian will have front-wheel drive and four-wheel drive variants, my test car has 4x4. The Jeep Active Drive 4x4 system, as seen on the Compass, making the off-roading pretty effortless. Select terrain with multiple drive modes is standard on the 4x4 variants. The course was technical and also involved quite a few kilometers of driving in the rough, some steep inclines, sandbanks, water crossings, and even some zones like obstacle courses that were specifically set up to display the car's articulation. The Compass starts at just over 18 lakh rupees and tops off at 31 lakh rupees for the Trailhawk. The Meridian is expected to launch in June, and I expect prices to stay between 35 and 40 lakh rupees, given that it boasts 82% local content. But if it really needs to take on the diesel Toyota Fortuner head-on, which is similarly priced, Jeep will do well to start at 31 lakh rupees and top off at 35. The good news, it is very much a Jeep. Meet the Honda City HEV or hybrid electric vehicle. India finally gets the hybrid variant of the City, which was introduced on the last generation in markets like Japan and Southeast Asia. This variant also drives in Honda's Sensing, Safety and Driver-Assistive system, which is Honda's ADAS, a first for the compact sedan segment. More on that later. Look at this car from a distance and it looks like the regular City. On the one hand, that's a good thing because you don't really want it to be weird or very different. But on the other, if I am a hybrid buyer, I might want people to know that I have the hybrid from a mile. And it's a little disappointing that Honda chose not to even bring a signature paint color exclusively for this variant. That could have been nice. There's a lovely blue. I, of course, have to talk about that. But speaking of blue, you do get a little bit of blue in the badge, and that's typical of most Japanese manufacturers. When it's a hybrid or an electric, any kind of electrified variant usually gets a little blue highlight in the badging, so up front and at the back. This section of the grille is also new and different to the regular City. The rest of that, the big fat chrome up here, it's in line with Honda's global design language and of course the City itself. The LED array headlights, again, the regular City ZX or ZX, that gets it as well. The housing for the fog lamp though is different, and so that is one thing that will sort of stand out as being different. You've also got a different pattern on the alloy wheels and then a few changes at the back. But before I get to that, a quick point that I want to make. Now Honda could have chosen to give this car a slightly edgier look by maybe having a blacked out front grille. Instead of two-tone, just black alloy wheels and maybe body colored or, dare I say, black door handles. I have never been a fan of these chrome handles, but that comes with the ZX trim, and that's something that they assume everybody in India wants. At the back though, you have this little bit of a lip spoiler on the boot. That is new to this variant. The HEV badging, which tells you that this is a hybrid. The E again has the little hint of blue. And then you've got this diffuser finished off in a carbon fiber finish at the back. This is the ZX variant of the City, which is the top end. So you get a fully loaded car. But there are subtle differences on the EHEV variant. The dual-tone ivory and black theme is new, and the seats maintain their well-bolstered, comfy feel. Also new is the 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system, compatible with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay.
but graphics and interface remained an Achilles heel for the Japanese manufacturers. The screen also houses the display for a 360-degree camera view, but the pixelated and poor resolution output is a letdown. Apart from this, there's automatic climate control with 3 rotary switches, USB slots, a 12-volt charging socket, sunroof, and even smart utility spaces, and one that's large enough to fit a smartphone. The Honda City EHEV misses out on wireless charging, wireless Apple CarPlay, as well as wireless Android Auto and ventilated seats.
So lots of different drive modes to take you through, and these are not modes that you're adjusting. The car is doing that on its own. That's the whole point of this 2-motor system. Now, when you just start moving, when you start the car and start to actually move away, it's pure EV, and you get that little nice hum, aircraft-like, which is nice. It's silent, it's very smooth, and like a lot of hybrids. So good to have, and it gives you that nice sense of driving an electric car. Well, as you start to go a little bit faster, that's when it goes into hybrid mode, and that is when the engine also kicks in with, there you go, you can hear the engine coming on. It's a little aggressive sounding, which I don't like, but the reason that's happening is not because I am accelerating a lot, it's because the engine is actually kicking in to provide power back into the battery so that it doesn't deplete. Car is still driving on hybrid mode, which means it's the battery that's sending power to the motor, and it's the motor that's driving the car. It's still not the engine that is sending that power to the wheels directly. But as you start to accelerate more and you get to cruising speeds, well, that's where you go into just hybrid mode. You're not really going into pure EV anymore. So pure EV mode kicks in and out when you're in relatively slow speed traffic, so pretty much city driving. But cruising along, you get hybrid mode. Both things work in conjunction. But remember again, the petrol engine is just doing the job of helping to have enough power in the battery so that the motor can drive the car. But when you get to high-speed cruising, highway driving and such, well, that's where you go into engine drive mode. So that's the only time when the engine is directly sending power to the wheels. And at that point, the battery kicks in, or the electric power kicks in, to provide you a little extra boost when needed. Lots of different things to explain, but it was important to tell you these different drive modes, because that is, after all, the whole USP and the whole point of the hybrid.
Our test car came with a full tank of gas and showed about 700 kilometers of range, while the real-time fuel efficiency was close to the 20 kilometers per liter mark, thanks to some heavy-footed driving. But I believe that can be increased to the claimed 26.5 kilometers per liter quite easily by driving more efficiently. The City EHEV is the most fuel-efficient compact sedan in the market, besting the likes of the Maruti Suzuki Ciaz, Skoda Slavia and Hyundai Verna, and that's across both fuel types, mind you. The City Hybrid is also now the most powerful offering in the segment.
Now, all of this talk about the different drive modes is all very well. How does the car drive? That's the part you really want to know. Compared to the regular petrol City, this is more powerful. The combined output is over 120 horses. So you get that little extra sense of power when you're driving. I have to say it's not very different to drive, but the silent EV mode is what's really pleasurable and fun. The car really cruises well. Its handling and steering have been pretty good on this generation anyway, and I like that. I like that about it.
The part that gets my attention is also all of that ample torque. Having a battery on board gives you plenty of grunt, and that's evident, especially in high-speed driving. The eCVT also works well, though paddle shifters to control kickdown would have been better for me. Safety gets a huge leg up on the City Hybrid. It has everything from 6 airbags to ISOFIX child seat anchors, 3-point seat belts for all passengers, to stability and traction control. And anti-lock brakes with electronic brake force distribution. All of this is standard. The car also gets tire pressure monitoring and hill start assist. But that is not all.
Advanced driver assistance systems, or ADAS, more and more manufacturers are bringing that into India, and I couldn't be more pleased because, of course, it's great to enhance safety when you're driving. Honda has brought in level 2 with this car for the first time, and you get a bunch of features with it. It's called Honda Sensing, this whole suite of ADAS features, and you get a whole lot of things. So you've got things that you can go in and switch on and off using that same menu that I was talking about earlier. So you've got a collision mitigation system, which is automatic emergency braking, and that of course alerts you both from the point of view of a visual as well as a beeping sound, and then of course it will apply the brake in case you don't step in. You've also got the road departure mitigation, which is basically your run off road feature where the car will not let you swerve off the road, or it will again alert you, or there will be an intervention. Similarly, the same system helps you to also keep within your lane and drive within your lane. And Honda says that even lane markings that have been faded or sort of partly rubbed off, it will still recognize a lot of that. You get advanced cruise control as well, which is something that kind of goes as part of all of these packages. I'm of course talking about adaptive cruise control. And besides all of that, you've also got the auto headlamps. So when you're driving with a high beam, dark road at night, if the car senses another vehicle approaching, it will automatically dip the high beam. And then once that vehicle has passed, high beam back on again. So automatic lights as well as the high beam part of it, which is nice. It's always nice to have these things. And now the part that, of course, that I mentioned to you earlier, which has got me excited, is to see that all of this will soon come into the entire portfolio.
At 19,50,000 rupees, the City Hybrid is 4,47,000 rupees more expensive than the petrol ZX Auto variant, and 4,27,000 rupees over the top spec diesel manual. That is a lot more than I'd have liked to see. But for many, the hybrid tag, healthy mileage and ADAS features should be enough of a convincing factor anyway.
So that is a look at the new hybrid Honda City. Do you like it? Please tell us. Do you not like it? Tell us that as well. Same with the Jeep Compass. So we kind of traversed from Chandigarh to Bangalore here for the city. Lots that we packed into this episode. You have to react to it. And as always, tell us what you'd like to see. And as always, I implore you, please wear your seat belts, front or back. Same goes for helmets, front or back. With that, it's goodbye. Join us next week.